across a harsh stretch of African dry woodland, where dusty earth, scattered thorn bushes, weathered acacia trees, dry yellow grass, fallen branches, and small patches of exposed reddish soil create a landscape of survival. A lone honey badger moves carefully through the morning heat. The land is not a lush green jungle. Most of the vegetation is sparse, with wide open spaces between trees and only occasional shrubs breaking the horizon. The honey badger is small compared with the predators that rule this region, but its compact body, powerful shoulders, thick claws, and fearless nature make it one of the most difficult animals to intimidate. Its black and gray coat is covered with dust from the dry ground as it searches for food among old roots and termite mounds. After hours of wandering, the badger discovers something important, a familiar scent carried by the wind. Somewhere ahead lies its burrow, a deep underground refuge hidden beneath a low thorn-covered bank. The badger immediately changes direction and begins moving toward it, but the journey is far from safe. A lioness is resting beneath a scattered acacia several hundred meters away. She's been watching the open ground for movement, and when the honey badger crosses a narrow patch of bare earth, her attention locks onto it. The lioness rises slowly, stretches her powerful legs, and begins following. At first, the badger does not notice. It continues forward with its head low, stopping occasionally to sniff the air. Then a faint vibration of footsteps reaches it. The badger turns. Behind it, the lioness is already moving faster. Instantly, the peaceful morning becomes a desperate race. The honey badger accelerates across the dusty terrain, its short legs moving rapidly while loose soil scatters behind its claws. The lioness follows with long, powerful strides, closing the distance across the open ground. The camera tracks low beside the animals, shaking naturally as if filmed by a wildlife crew positioned far away. Dust rises beneath their feet, dry grass bends in the wind, and small branches tremble as the chase passes. The badger reaches a cluster of thorn bushes and suddenly disappears between them. The lioness slows, searching for an opening. The bushes scratch against her face as she pushes forward, but the badger emerges on the other side and races toward a rocky patch. It knows the burrow is still ahead. Every second matters. The lioness follows again, but the terrain becomes more difficult. Exposed roots, stones, fallen branches, and dry gullies interrupt her stride. The honey badger uses its smaller body to weave through obstacles that force the larger predator to slow down. For a moment, it gains precious distance. Then a dark shadow sweeps across the ground. Above the woodland, a martial eagle circles silently in the hot sky. The enormous raptor has noticed the movement below. Its broad wings stretch against the wind as it descends slightly, studying the fleeing animal. Now the honey badger faces danger from two directions. The lioness remains behind, while the eagle watches from above. The badger keeps running, following a scent trail that only it seems able to understand. The burrow is close, but the open terrain leaves it exposed. The eagle suddenly folds its wings and drops. The descent is fast and controlled. The badger hears the rush of air and throws itself sideways beneath a low thorn bush. The eagle passes just above it, its powerful wings striking the air as it pulls. Upward, dry leaves and dust scatter from the sudden movement. The badger does not wait. It emerges from the opposite side and continues toward the burrow. The lioness is now approaching again. She has changed direction to cut the badger off. Instead of chasing directly, she moves diagonally across the terrain, trying to reach the burrow. Entrance first, the honey badger sees her and stops for only a fraction of a second. Then it changes course toward a narrow, rocky depression. The lioness lunges forward, but the badger slips into the depression and races along its edge. The eagle circles above, waiting for another opportunity. The landscape becomes increasingly rough, with cracked soil, scattered stones, thorn branches, and small dry bushes. Finally, the badger sees a familiar bank ahead. Beneath a weathered tree root is a dark opening, barely visible from a distance. Its burrow. The animal lowers its body and runs directly toward it. The lioness realizes what is happening and accelerates. The final stretch is only a few dozen meters, but it feels endless. The badger's claws strike the hard ground. Dust flies behind it, and its breathing becomes rapid. The lioness closes in. Her shadow stretches across the ground behind the smaller animal. At the same moment, the martial eagle begins another descent from above. The honey badger reaches the bank just as the lioness makes her final charge. Instead of continuing straight, the badger suddenly turns sharply around a thick, exposed root. The lioness overshoots the turn and loses valuable seconds. The badger climbs a low bank, slides across the loose soil, and reaches the burrow entrance. The martial eagle drops lower, but the badger is already disappearing beneath the root. Its front claws enter the darkness first, followed by its shoulders and powerful body. The lioness arrives only moments later and stops at the entrance. She lowers her head and sniffs the soil, searching for way inside. The burrow is too narrow for her to reach the animal. She paws at the ground, sending dry dirt backward, but the tunnel quickly disappears into darkness. Above her, the martial eagle lands briefly on a dead branch and watches the scene. The honey badger remains deep underground, motionless for several seconds, listening to every sound from the surface. Outside, the lioness waits. She circles the bank, searches around the roots, and occasionally scratches at the entrance. But the badger has reached the one place where its smaller size becomes an advantage. The tunnel system protects it from predators that dominate the open woodland. After several minutes, the lioness finally loses interest. She walks away through the dry grass, her footsteps becoming quieter until only the wind remains. The martial eagle spreads its wings and lifts back into the sky, disappearing beyond. As it squeezes through the narrow tunnel, at last, it reaches a wider underground chamber and stops. The danger has passed. Outside, the dry woodland returns to silence. Wind moves through brittle grass. Thorn branches sway gently, and distant birds call from isolated trees. There is nothing dramatic left on the surface, only the mark and struggle,
follows the trail
footprints
of
in the dust,
chase,
disturbed soil near the burrow, broken grass, and a few feathers caught against a thorn branch. The honey badger has survived not because it was the fastest animal, the strongest animal, or the largest predator in the landscape, but because it understood its environment. It used bushes to break the lioness's pursuit, rocky ground to slow her powerful stride, and finally the narrow underground world where its smaller body gave it complete protection. In the wild, survival is often decided by seconds, instincts, and knowledge of the land. The honey badger may appear small against a lioness or a massive martial eagle, but when the landscape itself becomes part of its defense, size is no longer everything. Beneath the dry African woodland, safely hidden inside its burrow, the fearless little predator waits for another day, and when the morning comes, it will emerge again into the same harsh landscape, walking beneath the scattered acacia trees, crossing dusty ground, searching for food, and continuing the endless struggle that defines life in the African wild.